Hi! So in this video we're going to look at the anatomy of a for loop. Let's start by going over what a loop actually is. Loops let us repeat some code over and over until a condition is met. We use a loop when we have some logic which we need to happen repeatedly. So for example, if you go out for a walk and you want to reach your 10,000 steps for the day, then repeatedly you take steps until you reach 10,000 of them. This would be an example of repeating a sequence until you reach a condition. So back to the programming world. You may come across the term to iterate over something, such as an array. This is the same as using a loop. The three most common types of loops in JavaScript are the for loop, the while loop, and the do while loop. A for loop is useful to run some code when we know how many times that we want the loop to run. We may want to run some code multiple times until we reach a specific value, such as counting up to 10. If we did not use the loop, we would have to repeatedly write out the code we want to run, and this would break a key principle of writing code called don't repeat yourself, sometimes shortened to dry. So back to the for loop. So for loops have three key parts to them. The for keyword, the condition, which comprises of the initialization, condition and updater, and then the code to execute when the loop runs. So let's have a look at this in more detail. We start by using the for keyword, after which we add a set of parentheses. Now let's move on to the condition section. To initialize the loop, we create a variable. Commonly people call this I. This variable is then used as a counter for the loop. The variable can be initialized with a value, depending on where you want to start counting from. So if you want the loop to count up to a certain point, for example 10, and you want to start counting from, say, the value of 0, then you would initialize the variable I with the value of 0. So next, we create the condition itself. The condition is the stopping point. This is the point at which we want the variable I to stop counting and the loop to stop repeating. So if we want to count up to but not including 10, we would say I less than 10. Lastly, for the updater, we specify how the counter, the variable I, should change each time that the loop runs. So if we want to count up to 10 and therefore increase I each time that the loop runs, we can use the increment operator. The increment operator consists of two addition symbols and will increment a value by 1. We add semicolons between the initialization, condition and updater. The result of the for loop below would be all the values from 0 up to but not including 10 printed out to the console. Lastly, we add a set of curly braces, inside which we place the code that we want to execute each time that the loop runs. So now, when we run our code, we get all the values from 0 up to and including 9 printed out to the console.